The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Vote the 4th of July 2024. Your vote will matter. Voting in 18th century Britain. The proportion of the population eligible to vote was very small, estimated to be about 3.5% of the adult male population by the end of the 18th century. This meant that the vast majority of people, including the emerging middle class, working class, and women, had no political representation. In summary, the 18th century British electoral system was highly restrictive, undemocratic by modern standards, with voting right limited to a small, affluent segment of the population, predominantly defined by property ownership and wealth. The system was characterized by significant inequalities in representation and its susceptibility to corruption and patronage. Voting in 19th century Britain. By way of background, the working class consisted of unskilled labourers who worked in brutal and unsanitary conditions, a marker of Victoria England hierarchy. They did not have access to clean water and food, education for their children, or proper clothing. Early 19th century voting was restricted to wealthy male property owners. Post-1832, the electorate expanded to include more property owners and their tenants, though still restricted to property value. Post-1867, a further expansion included more urban working class men, though still with property and rent qualifications. Post-1884, the electorate became more uniform across counties and boroughs, encompassing a larger proportion of the adult male population. By late 19th century, despite expansion of significant portions of the population, including all women and many working class men, remained disenfranchised until the major reforms of the 20th century. In conclusion, the 19th century saw significant but gradual expansion of the franchise in Britain, moving from a system heavily favoured wealthy landowners to one that included a broader swathe of the male population. The century set the stage for more comprehensive reform to come in the 20th century. Voting in early 20th century Britain saw a significant change in the electoral franchise, expanding voting rights to include a broader proportion of the population and ultimately leading to universal suffrage. Here's an overview of the key developments. The Representation of the People's Act 1918. All men aged 21 and over were granted the right to vote, regardless of property ownership. Men aged 19 and above who had served in the armed forces during World War I were also enfranchised. Women aged 13 and over were given the right to vote provided they met the minimum property qualifications or were married to men who did. The impact. The electorate expanded to about 21 million, with women making up approximately 8.5 million of that number. The Representation of the People's Equal Franchise Act 1928. Equal voting rights. This act extended the franchise to all women aged 21 and over, giving women equal voting rights with men. The impact. This act increased the electorate to about 28 million, with women making up the majority of voters for the very first time. Voting in late 20th century Britain saw significant changes to the electoral franchise, expanding voting rights to include a broader proportion of the population and ultimately leading to universal suffrage. Here's an overview of the key developments. Post-World War II, the Representation of the People's Act, the abolishment of the plural voting. This act abolished plural voting, where individuals could vote in more than one constituency based on property ownership. University constituencies. Special university constituencies, which allowed university graduates to have an additional vote, were also abolished. The Representation of the People's Act, 1969. The lowering of the voting age. This act lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, reflecting changing societal attitudes toward adulthood and political responsibility. The impact. The electorate expanded to include younger voters, significantly increasing the political engagement amongst the youth. Late 20th century. The Representation of the People's Act, 1983. Refinements and updates. This act consolidated the previous electoral laws and introduced several refinements to the electoral process, including changes to voters' registration and the administration of elections. In conclusion, the 20th century witnessed the transition to universal suffrage in Britain, marked by the removal of property qualifications, the achievement of equal voting rights for women, and the inclusion of younger voters. These changes reflected broader societal transformation and a commitment to more inclusive democratic participation. British voters' contemporary concerns include the cost of living, improvements to the NHS, crime on our streets, immigration, climate change. British voters' contemporary concerns also include housing, education, availability of good jobs, childcare cost, equality for all. The main political parties in England include the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, 4th of July, your vote matters. Which party will you give your vote? Why give your chosen party your vote? The 4th of July, your vote matters. Share your decision with the Motivator on Saturday the 29th of June from 8:45 to 9:45 a.m. We want to hear from you. Yes, we want to hear from you. Oh yeah, always challenges, but we'll get through it. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. We rise to the challenge. Oh yeah, oh yeah. You clearly are clearly sure what this show will focus on today. That is the election here in Britain on the 4th of July. The people will decide the future government. And this show will give you the opportunity to tell us which party are you going to vote for and why. Oh yeah, oh yeah. This is your opportunity to tell us. Be honest. Tell us why you're going to vote for either parties and why. But before I get there, it is important for me to give a few public services announcements. And I'm primarily concerned, and many of you will appreciate this, about our health. And many of you be aware, and I'll give a thumbs up because I'm also an elected official. I see the official figures when it comes to public health and the prevailing conditions which really pervades the communities, but are persistent conditions, conditions which are avoidable. I say again, conditions which are avoidable. So it is my obligation as an elected official to share some public health messages with you, to spend just a few minutes. And I know you would appreciate why I'm going to spend these few minutes, and it might delay the start of the formal interview. But this is important. Our health is truly our wealth. So just bear with me. I just want you to hear these messages. These are crucial messages. These messages, I have good evidence, in fact, I know, has saved and transformed lives. Okay? So here we go. Here we go. And those of you who are familiar with the show and the format, you will understand what I'm about to do. It is so important. I am not going to miss this part of the show. I now need to go to our lifestyle messages. And they are critical because they get to the crux of who we are as human beings. How we live our lives affect the quality of our lives. And there's certain actions we take which undermine often the quality of our lives, either through direct and unconscious action, and sometimes because you don't have the will to change. But I know hundreds, if not thousands of you have changed and your lives have been transformed. So I ask you, please, to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume every day. Yep, very basic items, sugar and salt. Sugar, of course, this is one of those ingredients in our diet that is added as children as sweets. Yep, we give it to children of all things. Yep, and we then put sugar in our teas and our coffees, or drink undue amounts of those sugar bottled or tinned drinks. Yeah. Or, of course, it's found in items such as cakes and so on in large quantities. The problem is the British NHS spends more than £26 billion a year on treating diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And there's a direct causal link between the overconsumption of sugar and diabetes and its prevalence within the communities. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you consume each day. And if in doubt, please speak to your doctor, speak to your GP or your nutritional pharmacist, whoever has access to your medical records. They're the best person to provide personalized advice for you. But within every other family here in Britain, someone either has got diabetes or is unaware that they have diabetes. That's how profound a condition it is. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you consume each day. Equally, I ask you to consider the amount of salt you consume each day. Again, one of those ingredients we add to our food as a flavor enhancer, supposedly. Actually, just like sugar, it's a fallacy. It's a made up concept. It may make your food taste different, but it's not necessarily an enhancement. The problem here, the overconsumption of salt causes the hardening of the arteries and makes it more difficult for the heart to pump plasma blood around your body. As a consequence, there's a raising of our blood pressure, hypertension. And again, I'm confident each of you knows someone with either diabetes or hypertension, high blood pressure. I ask you to consider the amount of salt that you're consuming each day. In my case, I no longer buy sugar from the grocery store. I no longer add additional salt to my food, okay? Because I have a broad diet, and generally I don't need to add these two items to my food. So I ask you to consider those items. I equally ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrate that you consume each day. Again, carbohydrates is typically found, in our case, in wheat and some root vegetables. You see on the screen, the wheat in its green and beautiful. You see the pasta, which is essentially just wheat. You see the potatoes and the yam. Yep, I'm going to give it light to it. The potatoes and the yam, which is jam-packed full of carbohydrates. The problem is, it's not the carbohydrate itself, it's the overconsumption of carbohydrates. Our bodies assume we'll eat in this quantity because we are anticipating a famine or a rainy day. I ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrate that you consume. The experts tell us for each sitting, we should consume no more than a fistful of food per sitting. I know that's challenging because we all eat far more than that each day. But I ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrates that you consume each day. And I'm ensuring you, if you moderate your carbohydrate intake, you'll feel much better in the long term for it. But if in doubt, I say again, speak to your GP, your doctor, or your nutritional pharmacist to provide you with personalized advice for yourself. Another ingredient, which we don't typically add to our food, but it's found in present in certain foods, and that's, of course, fat. On the screen, you can see raw meat. Yes, it deliberately is raw meat. It's so you can see the fat. Red meat you can see, but the white is fat. The problem is that we overconsume fat. Yep. What do our bodies do? It's assumed that you want to store it, anticipating a rainy day. Yeah, famine is on the horizon. Here's the problem. We eat this fat every day and our bodies become bloated. Our cholesterol levels goes through the roof. And so many of us, even me included at once upon a time, had cholesterol levels which were unacceptable. It was harmful to our long-term health and well-being. I ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day, and particularly those of you who love to fry your food. In fact, yeah, please, I ask you to consider the long-term implications of your action. I know it's learned behavior. I get it. But it's so crucial, so essential that we think about the overconsumption of fat. Fat is a necessary part of our broad nutritional intake, but the overconsumption is the challenge. On the screen now, you can see the internal impact, the overconsumption of sugar and the salt, the carbohydrates and the fat and the starch we'll get onto in a moment. You can see an artery which is partially blocked, hardened fat, carbohydrates, and all the other mixtures which are causing the blockage in your arteries. Problem here, it's difficult for the blood to get around your body. You will feel the effects of it. And of course, your blood pressure will definitely go up because your heart is working that much harder. I ask you to consider how much the quantum of sugar, salt, and fat that you are consuming, the carbohydrates. And the last ingredient I will give light to is, of course, starch. Starch is very much found particularly in the sort of African and Caribbean communities. That's, of course, in rice. Yep, I know other communities eat rice, don't you? No, not the problem. It's the overconsumption of rice which is the challenge. I ask you to consider how much rice you are eating. Again, we should eat no more than a fistful of food per sitting, which includes maybe a small amount of rice. Note the word a moderate or small amount of rice. Yeah, it's the overconsumption. Because, of course, rice is full of starch. Starch is a source of energy. Our bodies store it. And you've seen the impact on many of our bodies right now. You see on the right-hand side of my screen those pretty food, those pretty cakes, and those, it all looks very pretty. We'd love to give it to our children. You see those pretty biscuits? Yeah. Full of starch, sugar, and salt, and carbohydrate. This food, in the long term, is harmful to our health and well-being. I urge you to consider the amount of starch that you consume each day. But in the long term, far too many members of the wider communities are being affected by these typical lifestyle diseases. On the screen, you can now see the physical impact of the overconsumption of the ingredients I've just mentioned. You see the lady and gentleman with the bloated shoulders, the bloated chest, the bloated abdomen, the bloated thighs, and indeed the bloated buttocks, or if you like, or bottoms, whatever you call it. Yeah. That's it. You can see the screen. That is the causal link between your diet and your lifestyle and the impact it has on your bodies. Far too many members of our community are affected in this way, of weight which are way above our height and our gender. I urge you to really consider what we are doing to ourselves. The experts all recommend what we need to eat is far more untainted fruits and vegetables. You see on the screen, you see beetroot, you see oranges, you see the melons, yeah, you see the cucumber, yeah, you see the noriega seed, you see the apples, yeah, you see the lettuce, the tomatoes, yeah, you see the lemons, you see the cauliflower, you see the grapes, yeah, you see the oranges. This is what our bodies crave. Our body can convert this into flesh, into plasma, and promote our good mental health. Yeah, this is what our bodies most crave. You see the tomatoes, you see the sweet corn. This is what our bodies crave. Give your body what it needs to keep you in good shape. You see the parsnips there, wonderful parsnips there. Yeah, you see the celery. That is what our bodies actually need. This is what we can use to build ourselves. See the wonderful pineapple there in the background, the cabbages. Yeah, this is what our bodies need. You see the lemons, wonderful lemons. See the cherries, lovely cherries. This is what our bodies need. This is what our bodies can use to build itself and maintain your general good health and well-being. The wonderful mushroom. You see the almond nuts there. This is what our bodies crave. Give your body what it needs to protect you from all the maladies that pervades the background environment. This is what our bodies need. Why not give it what it needs? But of course, many of you be aware that we are, of course, 70% water. And you see on the screen, a young man drinking his water. We need on average between 2 to 3 liters of water. And yes, I get it. It's challenging at times. Yep, it depends upon your height and your mass. But water is life. I say again, water is life. Hydrated water is life. This is what we need to maintain a good health and general well-being. I urge you to do the same. And finally, it is important, having said what I've said, to exercise. Exercise is life. This is what our bodies crave. See, you're a lady with the weights, pumping those weights, maintaining good muscle tone. You see the mature gentleman with the headphones and he's smiling, he's running with a vigor, with life, boating up in himself. Wonderful. See a young lady running up and down those stairs. I can assure you, that is true exercise. Do 20 of those and you'll feel your heart racing. You'll feel sweat pouring through your pores. That is exercise. See the young man with his bulging muscle doing his press-ups. This is the exercise for life. I urge you to do the same. I urge you to do the same. Exercise is life. I urge you to hear these messages. They have transformed thousands of people's lives over the time I've been giving out these messages. These are typical public health messages, but essential messages that go to the root of our general health and well-being. I'll conclude by saying this. Having addressed our physical needs, it's important to be mindful of our mental and spiritual needs. If in doubt with regard to your mental needs, I urge you to seek out professional advice. If not, speak to whoever you most trust, whoever most respect. I would trust that person will give you the support you need to obtain the mental health support that you absolutely deserve. And lastly, all human beings are spiritual people. It's important to take care of your mind, body, and soul. Speak to your spiritual advisors. I urge you to do this because ultimately your life is very much in your hands. And this, of course, is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action because success is ours for the taking. And I'll just conclude by doing this. I'm pleased that people right across the country, and I'm sure in other places across the world, have understood these messages and their essential message, which is our health is our responsibility. It's important for us to take care of our health. I want to just play for you a video of one organization, the Countdown organization, who, of course, are an epitome, an example of people come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding, working together, you can make the difference. Watch these people come together from right across the African continent, living here in Britain, regardless of their background, coming together, common aim and common purpose, yeah? And they're recognizing they've got to work together to maintain good health. I just want to play this, then we go to the main crux of today's show. I'm going to play the video for the Countdown Fitness. There we go. There we go.
Cheese. Famous. Hello, 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 hello. Power. 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 You get one life on leave. Me self get one life on leave. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time. Palava no dey finish. Time me no dey wait nobody. Now why I dey try for always get am nice every day and night. This one way we all fend we safe now nobody own. You want to eat with too much we go down you belly now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it bill 'em, oh. You meet up woman where you let yarn 'em. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine la pan where you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em more. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. Want them more. Cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life till all I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass yourself. All man they fed for yourself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they panted with peace away. Me joy away, me smile away. Oh no, make nobody take your peace away. Me joy away, me smile away. Oh no, alright. Every day. I see they also they work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you catch. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No money make motor man and bother. As long as you get waiting you they eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all fend we safe now nobody own. You want to eat with too much we go down you belly now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it bill 'em. You meet up woman where you let yarn 'em. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine the power you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em more. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. Want them more. Cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life till all I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass yourself. All man the fed for himself. Now why I know the allow what you other man they party. Peace away, away, me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, no make nobody take your peace away, away, me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, oh away, away.
All right. Wonderful, huh? Yeah. Perfect example of community collaboration. Yeah. That's what we want to promote. And they've come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding. Your health is your wealth. Yeah. They all do these regular health checks now, monitoring their diet. Yeah. Ensuring that they drink amply, ensuring they have good mental health, and of course, they're spiritually enhanced. Oh, yeah. Now, that's an antidote. That is what you need, an inoculation to ensure good life, long life, healthy life. And that's what we need to aspire to. And if you've got members of your family who come down with those typical lifestyle conditions, help them. Yep, help them. Don't criticize them, don't embarrass them. Help them. Yeah, give them advice, give them guidance so they can help themselves. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I want to now get right into the substance of today's transmission. That's, of course, what is going to happen on July the 4th. I know some of you are uncertain to if you will vote or not on July the 4th. Okay. So I'm hoping that today, those who've made a decision will share with us the reasons why they've made a decision, how they will vote. Okay, so let me first of all put the questions on the screen. Okay, and now get my talking bird to come up. Where is she? She's come up in a second, I think. Where's my talking bird? Oh, can I get her to come up? Oh, don't worry. We'll get my talking bird up. Oh, I like her. She likes to. Oh, there we come. Oh, there she is. Let's talk. I know. Yeah. Questions. Which party will you give your vote? Why give your chosen party your vote? Those are the two questions I'm asking you, the audience, today. Okay? So I'm interested to hear from you. Which party will you give your vote? And why give your chosen party your vote? Okay? So I'm going to open the phone lines, okay? And some of you have got other means you can contact the studio, okay? But I'm interested to hear from you, okay? Let me just bring up the telephone number in a second. There we go. And the number to call, if you wish to call the studio and share with us your decision. And if you're in the UK, the number is as follows: 0203 289 6504. Others have given other links in other places, so you can use those links to connect to the studio now. I'm interested to hear from you, the British people, okay, the diverse British people. Which party will you give your vote, and why give your vote to your chosen party? I'm interested to hear from you. As you recall, on Saturday last, I did a major feature on the Labour Party. Okay, I did that deliberately because, of course, the Labour Party, under the leadership of Keir Starmer, is representing change. But some people, of course, and they may call today, may want the current status quo. Okay. But I deliberately gave light to the Labour Party, and no disrespect to the minor parties, okay, they are unlikely to form a government. So the only genuine alternative and that's decided by the British electorate, is the Labour Party. So we needed to understand the Labour Party's position. What are its underlying principles? Okay. It was important, therefore, to recite for you speeches given by Steer Carter. It's important to hear what Keir has to say. Okay? Because he potentially could be the next Prime Minister. Okay? But that ultimately will be decided by you, the electorate. Right, I can see I've got my first person on the line. Let's get that person into the studio and let's have a chat, shall we? Let's see who this person is. Let's have a chat because this is going to be an important discussion for you all because you've seen the pre-show video. For you to have the vote, it's taken in Britain more than 200 years to achieve universal suffrage. In other words, where we can all vote if you're above 18, 16. Yeah. And remember, women didn't get to vote until 10 years after all men got the vote. In the 18th century, it was only essentially white men who owned properties, in other words, wealthy men, that could vote. How absurd is that? Anyway, let's bring my first caller into the studio and let's see what this first caller's got to say. Let's bring that first caller in. Let's see if we can bring the caller in. It'd be nice. Well, there we go. We've got Anthony. Have we got Anthony on the line?
We have.
Wonderful. Good morning, Anthony. How are you feeling this morning?
Good morning, Councillor Seaton. I'm feeling very good.
You can say the motivator. That will do fine.
Oh, sorry. Motivator.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your prior contribution. That was truly an inspirational podcast. Thank you again for that. You are our first caller here. Oh, there's another one waiting in the wings. That's fine. But let me take you first. Okay. First of all, has there been any progress since I last spoke to you on the Windrush Act? Any further development you want to report? If not, we could talk about the election. Go ahead.
So the Windrush Act is about two things, really, fundamentally. It's about what the community does in response to the Windrush scandal, meaning repairing the harm that's been done. So that means looking at the 5 themes, community cohesion, criminal justice, health, education, and work, and looking at the race disparities within those themes and seeing how the community itself can begin to tackle those disparities. And then the other half of the Windrush Act is what the government can do to repair the harm that was done to the Windrush generation. And what we're asking the government to do is to enact legislation. So it was legislation that impacted on the Windrush generation and their descendants in that their status as citizens of the United Kingdom and colonies, which they had when they came to the UK to help rebuild, was taken away as each of their territories became independent. And then immigration legislation was passed that imposed restrictions on them. So you don't impose immigration legislation on British people. You can only impose it on foreigners. And so
hold on, just a second there. And I think that's such a profound statement. I recall, of course, the 1948 Act, which it gave equivalence to those born in Britain or in the colonies, equal status under the law. Okay, and that I recognise, and therefore, like myself, I was born British.
That's right.
Yeah. Gosh, and you're right. How can you therefore apply an immigration act to someone who was born British?
That's right. And so the way they did that was by taking away that British status.
Wow.
Now, they didn't do it for every territory. Antigua, for example, they were able to hold dual nationality. And even up to recently with the Good Friday Agreement, remember, Ireland was once part of the British Empire, but then in 1922 it separated and gave us Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and we had the Good Friday Agreement, and that allowed people in the north to choose whether they wanted to become Irish citizens or British citizens, and that
Oh,
still is the same today.
really?
Now,
Oh,
yes, you can choose
gosh.
whether or not you want to be Irish or British, depending on your tradition in Northern Ireland. So
Yes.
we're saying, well, if it's good for the Irish, why couldn't it be good for other territories? Why
Absolutely. Yeah.
should people who are now living here because they've been asked to come here, then be have their status taken away and make them foreign, and then put immigration laws on them? So I think that's iniquitous, and we should really
Absolutely.
look at the legislation again and say, okay, we learned what has happened. We've had the what's called the Windrush lessons
Mm,
learned review, and
mhm.
that's detailed all the things that had happened. And so what we're saying is that we should look at giving people back that status, but at the moment they can't because the law's been changed. So the Home Office, with the best will in the world,
Mhm.
can't right the wrongs. Only Parliament can do that, because only Parliament can make law. So
Can I
that's why
just check
we're
here, if I may,
saying.
Anthony, just check this point. You say that the Home Office, with the best will in the world, cannot make the changes, but the
Mm,
Home Office possesses all the records. The Home Office knows, is aware, he
mhm,
says, of those who've entered the country and when they entered
mm,
the country, and
mhm,
therefore will be able to distinguish between those who are born British or those who
mhm,
are the descendants or children, or indeed sometimes cases
mhm,
grandchildren of those who were born British, okay, or at the
mhm,
very least were in the country up until
mhm,
1971, 72, I believe, okay, and therefore
mhm.
had entitlement to British citizenship. They've got the records. Why don't they simply use the records they have? They're in the best position to ensure equity under the law, aren't they?
They are, they are, and I've been talking to the Home Office, and I've even gone as far as taking them to court and put them in the
Uh-huh.
dock and explain to a judge what it is that they're up to.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, in his wisdom, said that it was for Parliament to look at the law. It's not the Home Office that can change the law. So, you're quite right. They do have the records, but they have to interpret those records according to the law. And what the law says is that people who came here from the Commonwealth or from the Caribbean had their
Yes.
status taken away. And so the law says we have to impose immigration law on them. And what happened was it was disproportionately enforced amongst the Caribbean. So that's why you have so many people. Although this applied to the Commonwealth as a whole, this is
Yes.
why you disproportionately have so many Caribbean people that were affected,
Uh,
because
because let's explain.
I mean,
Explain
Wendy
what.
Williams says, I think she put it delicately, that they institutionally forgot. Well, a lot of people call
Oh
that
wow.
institutional racism.
Mm,
But
mm,
let's put that to one side. We're saying that let's look at the law and let's see what are the actual aspects of the law that are preventing some people getting their status back, and therefore able to pass go and collect their £200 in compensation, or or collect their compensation. So
yes.
that's what we're saying. And then
Mhm.
that would also, um, if we amended the law as well, to look at the compensation and make sure that it can actually be accessed by the communities who have been impacted in this way, then that would give a statutory underpinning to the work that the community is doing. Because remember, I started with the work that the community is doing itself and has been doing with the first hostile environment that we encountered when we got here. So the community has always set up its Saturday schools to supplement the education that we were getting. It's always looked at the disproportionate health issues we've suffered from, disproportionate criminal law enforcement. So all of that, we have to tackle that as a community. But with this Windrush Act that I'm calling for, that would give all that work statutory underpinning and then enable us to work with other departments of government to actually implement laws that the government already has, like, for example, the Equality Act, Section
Yes.
1, who is tackling those race disparities in health and education. I mean, the institutions can try, but they can't do it on their own. Let's see how we can work with the communities affected to see how we can improve, the numbers that they recruit, improve the outcomes that they have, and so on and so forth. And it'll save the government quite a bit in the long run, because then we won't have so many broken communities and young people up in the criminal justice system and so on.
If I may, then, Anthony, and you make a series of really important points there. So, on one hand, you're saying that the Home Office forgot.
Well, Wendy Williams says they did, not me.
They forgot that we were here,
They forgot
living in
who
the
we were,
country,
where we
and we
came
have
from, all
legal
the rest of it.
status to live here. Come on now. Is that reasonable? Is that
Yeah,
reasonable?
no, it is reasonable, because I mean,
Okay.
a lot of people don't learn their history. Never mind, who their neighbours are and where they come from. I mean,
Yes.
when you get, election after election cycle, and people
Yes.
going on and on about immigration every election
Yes.
cycle, being hostile to everybody foreign,
Yes.
then it does build up that people think, well, these foreign-looking people, we need
Okay.
to remove
You know
as
what?
much as possible.
I might just give you that, if only for a millisecond, because this is what Nigel Farage capitalizes upon. This is the rather two-dimensional view of the world. Okay, I'm going to give it for you for 2 minutes, but I have to say to you respectfully, though, that I know most governments of states, or indeed local authorities, are large bureaucracies with central computers which retain records, and they very rarely throw those records away. Okay. And whilst I might give them a pass, a record might get lost, I might give them that pass. Okay. What I don't accept is the consistent incompetence. And it's clearly evident that mistakes have been repeated again and again, and middle senior officers, and indeed politicians, and arguably, I know some might say even past Labour politicians may well have contributed to the disaster that has befallen some of the Windrush generation. But I want to look forward, though. And this is an opportunity for change on July the 4th. Okay. And that's what I want to focus on today. Can I just ask you to hold for a moment? I see we've got another caller on the line. I'm going to bring this caller in. And I may have Lola. I think we might have Lola. Just bring Lola in so I can get her in to the main. Oh, there she is. Good morning. Good morning. How are you, Lola?
Hi,
It's been
good
a while.
morning.
How are you?
Morning.
I recognise you from afar there, you see. How are you feeling this fine morning? The sun is shining on you, evidently. Yeah?
Yes, we have every reason to thank God. The
We
sun
do.
is out. It's a beautiful day. We are
Mhm,
alive. What
mhm.
more can we ask for?
And what we can ask for is for change on the 4th of July. Okay. So I'm not going to keep you on doing it. I know you got family commitment as well today. Okay. How will you vote, if I may ask you? Just hold on there, Anthony. How will you vote on the 4th of July? Um, which party would you vote for, and why give your chosen party your vote?
Let me first of all say this.
Mhm.
There's no perfect party.
Indeed
If you're
not.
looking for a perfect party, then you're delusional.
Yes.
However, we have to make sure, regardless of the imperfectness, we must still make that effort to vote.
Yes.
Because if we don't vote,
Hmm.
we're going to be giving power to the wrong person.
Indeed.
And that's not what we wanted.
Hmm.
I already cast my vote because I'm a
Oh,
postal voter.
okay.
And
Okay.
I already gave my vote to the Labour Party. And
Okay.
I'll tell you the reason why.
Okay. Please
First
explain.
of all,
Mhm.
the person that I gave my vote for is someone local, in my constituency, and I know him very well, is actually the person that really got me involved, to be an activist within the Labour Party.
Okay. Okay.
I know him very well, and I know that he will deliver for our constituency.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, when I think about the Labour Party,
Okay.
like I said, it's not perfect. There are issues,
Yep.
but those issues, when we work together as one,
Mm-hmm.
together we can fix those issues.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not about the leader. It's not about the leader, because
No.
the leader is not going to come down to my constituency and do the work that needs to be done for me on ground.
Unfortunately
And
not.
if I need to hold someone to account to what's happening in my constituency, I'm not going to go and be holding the leader to account. It's my MP that I will
Yes.
hold to account.
Yes. Yes.
Those are some of the reasons why I gave my vote to the Labour Party. And also, when I think about the NHS, Labour Party is the founder of NHS. They will fix
Yes.
it.
Beverage. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to give it to, they're going to try as much as possible to stop the privatization of the NHS.
Indeed.
Secondly,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about education, primary school education and free school meals, especially for those children that are living in abject poverty, and the only place they can get the free school meals is when they are in school.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason why I gave them my vote.
Mm-hmm.
The third reason I gave them my vote is also about the Windrush generation.
Yes.
The Windrush generation is a big thing, and Labour has been fighting for the compensation that they deserve. And some of the policies that have been made can be turned around again by Labour to ensure that those people get what they deserve. Number 4,
Mm-hmm.
the new workers' deal. I don't know whether you've seen the new workers' deal.
Yes. Yes.
The new workers' deal is a great thing for those of us who are working class people, who are really working hard day in, day out to put food on our table and to support our families. That new workers' deal will benefit a lot of people. Another reason why I voted, I remember the ESA, the Educational Support Allowance
Yes.
for those children in colleges. It was Labour Party that did that. The Sure Start that is supporting especially young single parents, it was the Labour Party that did that. So there are a lot of good factors, that I remember, and I know that if we can get Britain's future back, things will be better for more people rather than for few people. And the rich will not continually, get richer, but those who also want to move up the ladder of wealth will be able to do that under the Labour Party. Like I said, it's not perfect, but together we can work together with our local MPs and try to make things better for all of us. And lastly, I
Beautifully
want to
said.
say one thing.
Yeah, please.
We are always saying, when you are going to cast your vote, please, 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 please. People always think about what's happening national. Oh yeah, I don't like your leader. Oh, this is what they're going to do. It's not about national. It's about where you live and how things can be better for you where you live and those local communities around. It's about getting things right for your local authorities so that life can be better. It's about NHS and the social care for older people. We need to vote right and get the right government in. And for me, that right government is the Labour Party. Thank you.
Oh, wonderfully said. It's difficult even to challenge you on those points you've made, but you've obviously thought it through. It is interesting. What about your family and friends? Do they share your convictions or are they undecided? I see that there's a large proportion of undecided voters out there.
Some of my friends are undecided, and some of my families are still undecided. However, we have been sitting down and having a conversation. And one of the things I've been asking, one of the stuff that I've been saying to them is, first of all, let's look at the corruption of the PPE that happens during the COVID.
Yep, the Conservatives,
Let's
yes.
look at how this current government were giving contracts to their best friends.
That's
to people
right.
that they know.
That's
And
right.
let's also remember that 1.4 billion of those contract given out, those PPE were never used. So they
Indeed. Yep.
destroyed.
Yep. That's
So
right.
I keep saying to them, who is wasting the taxpayers' money?
That's right. Yes.
I also said to them,
Mhm.
who is spending stupid amounts of money to get the Rwanda plane up and running?
Yeah.
Rwanda build or taking people to Rwanda is not going to fix the problem.
No, we're not. No.
The amount of money that has been spent on this Rwanda thing is so ridiculous when we have over 6 million children now living in abject poverty. We have issues in our own country and we're not, investing to solve those issues. I also would say to my friends and families, listen here, who is wasting our resources as well by giving all our equipment away, to other countries? If there's war tomorrow, where
Mhm.
would we be? How
Mhm.
can we defend ourselves in a way where we don't have a lot of losses?
Absolutely.
So those are the
Absolutely.
things I'm putting on the table
Well
for my
done.
friends and families.
Yes.
And they are beginning to lean towards voting for Labour.
Yes.
I always say to them, like I'm saying here now, I'm not saying that Labour is the
So not
perfect.
perfect.
It's not perfect. I keep telling them, don't be delusional, and
Mhm.
don't expect that if Labour gets in on the 5th of July, when we find out, or
Mhm.
Labour has gotten into power,
Yes.
don't expect anything to change even in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking everything is going to be hunky dory within the first couple of years, also you're being delusional.
Yeah.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed,
That's
and it
right.
will take a long time for the new government coming in to fix it.
I
We
agree.
need to be patient. We
Yes.
need to make sure that we have a government who cares about public services
Yes.
and those who are working in all those areas. And that's what I keep reminding them. That's why they're still thinking about it, but I can assure you 90% of them are going to be voting Labour.
Thank you, Lola. And I hadn't needed to intervene because you're very clear, and those issues I know are critical. Um, and of course, we could discuss housing, and the housing crisis has been exacerbated by conservative government policies, which have exacerbated the disconnect between ordinary people being able to get onto the housing ladder. In my day, it took maybe twice or three times my salary to gain a mortgage. Now it's equivalent in some cases to 9 times or 12 times a young person's salary. In other words, there's no chance of them ever getting onto
You're
the
right.
housing ladder. That's
You're quite right.
atrocious. The party that's supposed to be for personal aspirations is damning, undermining young people's aspirations. We need change. There's no doubt. Lola, thank you. Thank you. I'll say no more to you now.
Martin, can I just quickly say something
Of
about the
course, of
housing
course,
housing crisis as well?
of course.
With the housing crisis, like I have my son who is
Mm.
like 36, still lives with me because obviously he can't afford to
Yes,
get on the
yes.
ladder, to buy housing.
I understand. Yes.
And what I've been, I've been saving just to be able to get him on that property ladder.
Hmm.
So if as a young person you don't have the bank of
Hmm.
mom and dad to rely on,
Hmm.
you're stranded forever
It is very
if
difficult.
things
Yeah,
continue the
extremely
way
difficult.
it is.
Yeah.
And we need to think about who can give these young people, especially those of them who are suffer suffering in their
Hmm.
parents' homes or
Yes,
suffer suffering even in other friends' homes,
yes.
who can give them the opportunity to
Hmm.
get on the property ladder
Hmm.
is the Labour Party.
Yes,
Because Labour Party are the ones that start all the council estates. They're the one that invested in social housing
they
that
did.
helps people
Yep, absolutely.
to get on that property ladder. And
Of
that's
course.
why we need to vote and choose for change this time around.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lola. Wow. We need to meet up soon because you're in good feckle this morning. Good morning to you. So I'm going to bring another guest in. And if you need to go, that's fine. I'm going to bring another guest in, I believe. Let me bring her in now, if I can get her in. Ah, Jackie. Can you hear us? All right, Jackie. Oh, can she hear us? Oh, she can't hear us. We can hear you, Jackie. We can see you, but she can't hear us. Jackie, we can hear you. You can't see us. Oh, maybe you can. All right. Okay, and then we check. No, it's not us. It's her. Jackie, we can see, but you can't hear. I'll send her a message. Don't you worry. We keep her there for a moment. Lola, thank you for that introduction. That was wonderful. Thank you. Be well with your family and continue the fight. Okay? Be well with your family.
Amen to that.
There you
Amen
are.
to that. Let's
Amen
keep
to
the
you. Okay.
faith and let's keep working together as one, especially we from the black community. We
Hmm.
need to stop fighting against each other. We
Yep,
need to
that's right.
stop, competing against each other.
Yep.
It's not about competition. It's about working together as one family unit to do what's best for our community,
That's right.
especially for the generation that is coming behind us. Thank
That's
you so
right.
much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. God bless.
Blessings. Same to you. Thank you, Lola. Thank you. Anthony, let's go back to you. Whilst you're speaking, send Jackie a message that we can see, but she evidently cannot hear us. Um, I thought that was an interesting overview on Lola's position, which party she would vote for and why. I don't know. We've talked about the Windrush Act. Um,
Yeah.
Having reviewed the Labour Party's manifesto and so on, do you see that there are opportunities for change in the way in which the Home Office is governed if there were a Labour government? What's your opinion?
No, because I've heard what the Labour Party's had to say
Mm-hmm.
about the Windrush scheme, and I've heard what the um, Home Affairs. Well, I've read what the Home Affairs Select Committee
Yvette
was.
Cooper? Okay.
Yes, yes, and none of them are talking about legislation. So,
Okay.
and what I'm saying is that I would need a party to promise to
Okay.
change legislation. They don't have to do it to get my vote. They would need to promise that, and none of them have promised any changes to legislation. So, as I say, for the best will in the world, the Home Office can't say, "Oh, we'll give you back your status" if they've been out of the country, say for 10 years.
Right.
Um, they can do so now because legislation has been passed by discretion, but there are other groups that that discretion doesn't apply to. So what I'm saying is the number of hurdles have been put in place. The only way those hurdles can be removed is if the government legislates to remove them, and then people can come forward, get their status back, and claim their compensations. They're not promising to do that. They're promising to, take the scheme away from the Home Office. Now, what's that going to do? That's going to create a new bureaucracy that then has to go to the Home Office to confirm somebody's immigration status. So you've got two bureaucracies now that somebody who needs to resolve their situation has to go through. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. It's better
You can't
to
hear
look at.
me.
Oh, one moment, Anthony. Oh, yes, we can hear you
Yeah.
now, Jackie, but can you hear us?
Oh,
Oh, you can't hear us.
don't know
That's
what
okay.
else to do,
Continue
really.
talking, Anthony. Sorry, go ahead, Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's all about
You're in
process
broadcast.
and legal processes.
Okay.
If we can get those right, then we can resolve the issue. It doesn't need another bureaucracy that's going to take another year or two to get up and running and create all the delays and disruption. No, if you make the legislative changes, get the right processes in place, we've got communities or community organisations around the country that can address this issue with the resources that would come from, having our work statutorily underpinned.
Interesting. And I know that just so we're clear, that the Yvette Cooper has talked about Windrush in passing, and
Yeah.
she seeks and actively seeks to remedy the situation. And you're
Mm.
right. The discussion has not focused on a Windrush Act. It's focused on internal operational changes to
Mm.
enable application. You're saying that that's not enough. What's been proposed?
It's not that it's not enough. I mean, I've been along to the operations centre. The previous Minister for Immigration invited me there, and I went there, met all the staff, talked to them, looked at the work that they did, and I saw that they were people just like us, hardworking, trying to get this work done. But we get people making political capital out of the difficulties that the Windrush generation are facing. But the true issue is the law. You have to change the law and give the people back their status, and then they can claim the compensation that they're due.
Interesting. Okay. Can I make a suggestion? Because I'm pretty sure whilst Yvette Cooper, the Shadow Home Secretary, will have a busy time post the July 4th, I might suggest that what you need to do with this one is sort of pin a letter to her setting out your recommendations. Okay. Okay. But I'm assured that there are members of the front bench that will see this transmission. Okay.
Yeah.
And hear your skepticism. And you know what? You're the expert. I'm not. And if you're skeptical, then I'm wary. Therefore.
The reason why I smiled is that I did write to Yvette Cooper several months ago, but I didn't get a response. But
I suggest you do it again. Do it again. Okay. And I'm going to suggest that you do it again. If I've got a copy of it, I'll make sure it gets to the right people.
Okay, so that's two letters.
Quite a few.
Yeah. One to Keir Starmer and one to Yvette Cooper.
Right. I think so. I would imagine you do it again. But I've got no impression from the front bench that they wish the Windrush scandal to continue under their watch. Okay?
Yeah, you must remember we have this hoo-ha about documentation being destroyed, but who was the party that instructed for those documents to be destroyed? It was the Labour government. And then when the Conservatives came in, they carried out that instruction. But then they argued about, the papers being...
Can you say that again? I didn't quite catch what you said.
Destroyed.
You said forgive me, Anthony. Did you say the destruction of the record happened under the Labour government?
Yes, the instruction to destroy the records was issued by the Labour government. They then lost power, and the Conservatives came and saw this instruction still there on the books. Okay, and they decided to carry it out.
Okay.
So over the years, I've been growing up, and I've heard both parties, seeing who could be meanest to immigrants. They both have had this issue about immigration. You remember that it was the Labour government that passed the 2007 UK Borders Agency Act, and that had a big effect on immigration control, and then made it statutory that if you've been convicted of an offence for greater than a year, you're automatically deported. Which community has disproportionate criminal law enforcement on them?
Yeah.
The black community. So who then disproportionately gets deported and gets plane loads of people being deported. So, we look at the origins of these things and we see the fingerprints of both parties all over immigration. This is why, I listen carefully, but I don't hear anyone saying we're going to legislate to amend the hurdles that we've put in place for this community, the Windrush generation, that we all say we want to right the wrongs of. The wrongs were done by legislation, so let's have legislation to put them right.
Thank you. I'm not normally at this point unable to respond, but I don't feel competent to respond to your observations. And I've just done a quick search. It does appear that you're right on both counts. But of course, I was at a different time, completely different leader with different philosophies, and this is definitely a time for change.
Good.
We know for certain that the current lot are not worth that support. I think I'd rather put my lot in with the prospective incoming Labour government, I
If they
think.
make that commitment to legislation, then by all means. But I'll
Okay.
be a skeptic if they haven't said
Uh,
or made that promise. So
okay.
it's got to
Okay.
be a bargain between us. Voters want to vote for something that they've been promised. If they haven't been
Absolutely.
promised, then I'm still figuring out, who will make that promise.
Just hold that thought for a moment, and I like this. It's a challenge, and the fact I'm not able to respond with the confidence I would normally respond to such an observation is interesting. And I suspect that Yvette Cooper or someone in her staff needs to come here and speak to us about how they will address the iniquities in the performance of the Home Office in relation
There's,
to the so-called Windrush generation. Can I
there's a
just hold
Jamaican
this?
saying. There's a Jamaican saying: "We don't buy puss in a bag."
It is true. It is true. In fact, let me, if I may, go over to another Jamaican. Good morning, Jackie. Can you hear us? Oh, she can't hear us. Can you hear us, Jackie? Oh, she can't hear us. Hold on a second. Let me make sure. Oh, she's having connection problems, obviously. Oh, that's most unfortunate. I think we may have to take Jackie in another way. All righty. Oh, that's a great shame. It looks like she's frozen, hasn't she? Yeah, she has frozen. Oh, Jackie, can you hear us? No, she can't. She has connection problems. All right, I'm going to take her out to stream for the moment, and I'm going to send her a message suggesting an alternative connection method. There we are. She's out to stream now. Okay. Just for others who are listening to this broadcast, we are live, and if you wish to use the our phone lines and you're in the UK, the number to call is 0203 289 6504. Okay, I don't mind taking calls today because we need to hear from you, and we've heard some interesting perspectives and some challenges, and even a challenge I'm not able to respond to, which is an interesting experience to say the least. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if we can bring Jackie in. She's a very determined person, so I have to respect that once I can bring her in properly, and hopefully this time. Oh. It's a blank screen this time. Oh well. Jackie, I think I'm going to take you out to stream. I'm going to. Oh, can you hear us now, Jackie? You can. Ah, brilliant. Now your volume's rather low, but keep speaking. How are you this
I
fine
can hear
morning?
you. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
perfect. Yeah,
Yes,
perfect now. Right, perfect. Well, determination. Never give up, huh? Never give up. How are you this
I'm
morning?
good. I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Jackie, I've got. Oh, we've lost her. Oh, bad marked question. All right, never mind, never mind, never mind. So, those who are online and are wanting to connect to the studio, you can use a telephone line, which is 0203 289 6504. Okay, returning to you, Anthony, returning to you. It's interesting. You put a challenge to what is potentially an incoming Labour government. And what you're saying is that in regards to the Windrush and to resolve the issues, what is being proposed isn't enough, in effect, is what you're saying. And what the party needs to give a promise is that they will legislate to ensure that there is a legal entitlement, restate the positions to what it was prior to, I think, what would be 1971. Would that be right? That those who had legal entitlement to British citizenship because they were born or descendants of those born from the colonies
Mhm.
or the Commonwealth were entitled to British citizenship. That's right, isn't it?
So I can make it very easy for them. There's something
Okay.
called the Windrush Statement, and it was made by Amber Rudd and repeated by Priti Patel and other Home
Okay.
Secretaries. And it talks about, what's happened to the Windrush generation and righting the wrongs and so on.
Mm.
But it doesn't have any statutory underpinning. So that's really what we want to see happen. That the things that Amber Rudd said in that statement, that in law we can make it happen.
Okay. I will look for that statement in a moment. But before I respond to you, can I just see if Jackie, can you hear us first of all?
Yes, I can hear you. I
It
can
is
hear you,
now
Martin, and
perfect. Oh,
Anthony.
finally, finally. Can you just hold just a moment, Jack? I didn't go back to Anthony. So the Amber Rudd statement. Can you recall when
No,
it
the
said
Windrush statement. The
the
Windrush
Windrush
statement.
statement? Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
April 2018.
April 2018. I'll find that statement and I will recite it for our transmission next
Mhm.
Saturday. Uh, and hopefully by next Saturday, we'll know the outcome of the general election, pending any legal challenges or whatever. And
Mhm.
so whatever was said by Amber Rudd, and did you say Priti Patel, of all people,
Yeah,
made,
it's the government's position, so it's on the government's website as well. So the new government, they can either carry on with those warm words, or
Mhm.
they can say, "Look, we're going to give this some teeth, and we're going to legislate so that it can actually happen."
You never know. There may be a member of the front bench who is listening and viewing this transmission right now. Please, if you're
Mm,
listening and you're viewing it, please ring up now. I'd be
mm,
interested to
mhm.
hear a instant reaction response to what Anthony has just said.
Yeah,
But hold
we
that
even
thought.
tried to help by drafting the said amendments that would need to be made in order to give that statement some teeth. And they can put it to the law commission, who can
Mm,
come up with the legislative wording. But some of the work has been done. We know what needs to be done, and if we get the promises, then we're all behind them.
I like that. Hold that thought for a moment there, Anthony. Can I now move to Jackie? How are you, first of all, Jackie? The sun is shining upon you.
Indeed, it
It's
Hello,
is. I've done
wonderful.
Jackie.
my aqua, did my little exercise this morning in the water. So I'm here. Yeah, got to look after the body as
Absolutely.
we age. Yes, I've done that.
Well done, well
Hello,
done.
Jackie.
Exercise for life, Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. So, Jackie. Now, two questions for you. Which
Hmm.
party will you give your vote, and why give your chosen party your vote?
The party that I will be voting for
Mhm.
is Labour, and the
Okay.
reason why I'll be giving the party the vote is two things: the NHS,
Okay.
which I have experienced
Hmm.
under the current government for my mum. It
Uh-huh.
was bad before COVID. I couldn't get an ambulance when three times my mum fell down.
Oh dear. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in our home. I couldn't get an ambulance,
Hmm.
and she wasn't living far from the hospital. And in
Hmm.
the end, I had to phone my brother-in-law, which was off work at the time, to
Hmm.
help lift my mum into
Oh,
a 4x4. It was a high vehicle to
yeah.
get her to the hospital. So it's worse now. And
Right.
then the second thing is housing. If
Hmm.
we allow and don't change the government,
Hmm.
we're not going to have an NHS in 5 years' time. It will be totally unrecognizable. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so those are the two: health
Hmm.
and housing.
Housing.
And if for those that do who study management,
Hmm.
there's a theorist, Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yes, indeed,
Health
indeed.
and shelter are the
Yes.
two basic things
Mhm.
that needs to be covered, plus others, in order to elevate to the next level.
Okay.
So what are we leaving for the next generation if they can't access basic health care,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they can't get housing? There's no housing everywhere. There's housing crisis,
Hmm.
temporary accommodation. What
Yes.
council stock there is
Yes.
being covered even this week on ITN News.
Okay. What?
Housing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
been a top there.
disgusting.
It is disgusting. So, what would you suggest an incoming Labour government do in respect of, let's take housing for example. Uh, what changes? I'm going to, whilst you're talking, I'm going to just bring up what the party said about what it will do to address the housing crisis. But in your personal experience, um, I know you're in sort of the northern part of London. What changes should either local or central government do to support um, the housing market, to enable young people to get onto the housing ladder, or to ensure there's genuinely affordable homes available for those who want it to rent?
They need a long-term plan to build
Hmm.
housing, but
Yes.
behind that, We need a strategy, a national strategy for skills. We need people with skills in building and construction that is going to build and stay in the UK and have quality housing. The housing that is going up nowadays, from what I've heard from people in the industry, is not as sturdy and as strong as the older stock that we have,
That's
even though
interesting.
there are issues, even though there's issues on um climate and they're being well instituted, what they're insulated, what the people in the trade are saying, they are sturdy and they're robust. They got a bit of wrinkle, that's what they've said, but I'd rather buy a home that has been there for 80 years and have stand the test of time than a new build. So the new builds needs to be good quality, well and insulated, and affordable. But we need to go back into the chain, the value chain
Yes, yes,
of building it, and we need people with skills, a plumber, a carpenter, well trained, good skills in housing, and then build homes that last. That is
yes.
key. And it needs to be social. Social housing needs to be there. The private sector has taken up the slack for housing homes not being built, and there's not enough in the total space, whether it's private, whether it's social, there's not enough homes,
Yeah, yeah.
and we need homes every and the HMOs that has sprung up everywhere have changed communities.
Yeah.
We need homes for families.
Okay. That's interesting. So, of course, in other words, first of all, need to build more homes. Uh, and I know it's been suggested by the shadow cabinet that it therefore changes to the planning legislation regulation. Now, that's an interesting one. So it means that to release homes, release land, or particularly brownfield land, and would you be supportive, for example, of building on what is green fields? Would you be supportive of that or not?
I, for somebody of the age that I am, I do remember the excitement when Milton Keynes was built, yeah?
Ah,
And
yes,
we in
yes,
London, I remember doing
yes,
a little
yeah.
geography when I was doing my geography and going to Milton.
Mhm.
Now, if I remember correctly, Milton Keynes, the nice villages, they didn't want Milton Keynes. They
No,
were
they didn't.
not
No,
saying
that's
yes at the time.
right.
Yes, but there was a greater need over the small individual need for homes.
Okay.
And that's where we are. We
Mhm.
need brownfield, but we need some of the green fields as well. And
Yeah.
it needs to be affordable.
Mhm.
If you drive from Northamptonshire, there's a lot of new builds.
Yeah.
A lot of new builds. There's a lot of new builds in parts of Bedfordshire, but
Mhm.
they're not social housing. The social housings are squeezed in somewhere, and then there's discussions about the affordable. We need people to be valued and see the value in humans, whether they can buy or rent. They need a home. They need a
Mhm.
home. So, because
Okay.
on the brownfield, it's more dense.
Yes. Mhm.
Brownfield land, the properties that are built are more dense. There's not space for the children to play,
Mhm.
those sort of things. So we need a mix. We need some that's built on greenfield.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Labour was saying about new towns.
Yes.
People in London, if they when they come out of London and they see they go, wow, look at all this green space.
I
Go to Welwyn
understand.
Garden City,
Yes.
Letchworth. Oh
Mhm.
my God, this is beautiful. There's so much space. So it's not most people, everybody's entitled to something like that because it affects your well-being. A
Yes.
secure home, secure tendency, that's your sanctuary, is your home, and it affects your health.
But as you know, Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, has said that the manifesto is so constructed because we she knows that we can afford it. It's deliverable. Okay. Or would you be suggesting that the government should go above its own spending or lending limits in order to invest in new homes? Or would you go along with Rachel and Keir Starmer and the rest of the shadow cabinet, and understand that the number of homes may well be a slow start because of affordability.
It's about affordability, but about skills
Okay.
and the
Okay.
skills. A lot of the things is the skills. Even in getting people to come and do little jobs in your home nowadays,
Hmm.
post COVID, it's
Hmm.
really hard to get a trade person out.
Hmm.
And because of the demographic age of the UK, a lot of people that have a lot of skills in all parts of the economy have retired.
Indeed.
They
They are
don't want
retiring,
to
most certainly.
work
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And we haven't trained up generations behind those. These are the baby boomers to
Mhm.
value and see the importance of a trade.
I
So
understand
this
that.
is good. So for
Yeah.
me to answer your question, Mike, it's going to take time.
Okay.
And
Fair
what
enough.
Labour did do the last time
They did.
when they in 97 they kept to what they promised about economy,
They
the
did.
envelope,
They
what they
kept
was
their
there, and they
promises.
had
Yes.
and they took their time. So all this thing about Labour can't be trusted, nobody remembers the 97.
Hmm.
97 there was a plan, and Labour took its time,
That's
and
right.
the waiting list on the NHS went
The
down.
down.
It
It did.
didn't
Yes.
continue to go up.
Indeed.
But
Yes.
people tend to forget certain things that have happened. So
Hmm.
I support Rachel Reeve
Yes.
in saying, let's take our time, let's create a plan. Because in
Right.
Britain, we do a lot of short term. We don't think long term. We
Hmm.
do short term. What can we do quickly? Now. Some of the things set, it's like, what was it somebody told me? The Chinese bamboo strategy.
Oh, okay.
Oldies. Yes, oldies, how they just sprung up, and you're thinking, oh, look where oldies is nowadays. Oldies did they kept watering the seeds, kept
Yes.
taking their time,
Yes.
and then poof, woof, the
They,
bamboos came up. Oldies is everywhere. Yeah,
yes.
even posh places now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
oldies where they used to be looked down.
Mm.
There is oldies.
Okay.
There is littles.
There you are.
We need
You
to
know what?
take our
You're actually
time.
right. You're actually right about that. You've not mentioned Windrush. Okay. Would that be
Oh,
one of your priorities for voting for a Labour government, notwithstanding Anthony's cautiousness that the Labour Party hasn't declared uh, that it will put in place a Windrush Act? Because, of course, it's a change to the law which created the problem as opposed to internal regulations. What's your view? Should that be a priority for an incoming Labour government?
yes, because if they don't deal with the legal structure that Anthony says
Hmm.
and who's administrating the compensation,
Yeah,
how we can achieve some of the stuff that Wendy Williams talks
that's right.
about
Yeah.
restitution, about we need to heal
Hmm.
those children.
Hmm.
That generation is passing away, and their children and grandchildren are getting caught up. Yesterday, I was over in Stopsty Black Baptist Church
Hmm.
because I got a music service to sing a song for Windrush. There's a
Okay.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Hillbrook Junior School sang it last week at the flag raising,
Hmm.
and it goes about they called and we came. It's an
Hmm.
adapt. I'll have
This
to
is
find the
true. Yep.
melody and send it to you.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true. Yep.
And it was really, and I was honored to ask to speak before the children sang the song,
Hmm.
because the foundation of building Britain was, and Britain as it
Yes.
is Africa, the
Yes.
Caribbean,
That's
and
right.
India.
It is true.
And it,
Yeah.
and it was D-Day. We recognized D-Day this
Yes.
year. Who
Yes.
was there fighting with Britain?
Yep. Yep.
Because they were called that they were British,
That's right. Yep. That's right.
Africa,
That's right.
India,
That's
and the
right.
Caribbean.
That's right.
And
Can I
this
just
is
say at
important.
that point?
And I didn't even know that
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad was key to the
Hmm.
war for D-Day, because Trinidad had a oil refinery. I recently found
Oh,
out at a call at the Black
yes.
Cultural Archive, the
Uh-huh.
biggest oil refinery in
Mm,
Britain.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
Colin Douglas' book came out.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
if Britain had lost the Caribbean to
Hmm.
the U-boats by
Yes.
the Germans,
Yes.
D-Day wouldn't have
Mhm.
happened because America wouldn't
Mhm.
have taken part with Germany having a nice big hole under their belly, which is the
Yes.
Caribbean, or under
Yes.
their foot. So
Yes.
our ancestors, our elders, they
Mhm.
played their part for this country, for the
Thank you for
United
that.
Kingdom.
Thank you for that. 'Cause that's a really useful piece of history, which is not taught in the schools, of course. And what you're really noting, and I know that was most certainly true of my parents, who were encouraged to come here to work in those jobs because there wasn't enough workers here.
Mm.
Very similar situation to what we have now, I must say, but was not enough workers, and they made a tremendous contribution to making Britain what it is today. And generally, it's not recognised by most English, Scots, or Welsh people, or given the recognition, affirmation that it justly deserves, which is
But
why
it's
this
also
Windrush. Go ahead.
but
Yeah.
it's also the other people that have come in, like
Hmm.
Britain. Luton's got a lot of Eastern European. They don't know the story.
No, they don't. No.
They come here and they're thinking, why are these black and these Asians here? Because
Hmm.
they don't know the
Hmm.
story, the British story of
Hmm.
how Britain got built up its wealth in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century.
Indeed.
They don't
Yes.
know that. So
Yes.
if we're not having that conversation, if we're not teaching British history beyond, yeah, going
Mhm.
all the way back, how is anybody going to know?
True.
And I really do hope that the promises that that for Windrush Day that Labour made, that they will keep to it, because we need to heal. We have contributed. My parents contributed so much for this country. Yeah,
Yes.
and I even dropped yesterday. I couldn't even talk patois. What patois I'll learn, was it because my parents, well, not
Yes.
my mum, it
Mhm.
was my mum saying, no, no, you're British. Don't
Mm.
be talking. And the
Hmm.
curriculum was a
Yes.
British curriculum taught
That's
in the
right.
Caribbean,
That's
in
right.
Africa, and
That's
in
right.
Asia.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
Yes.
British curriculum that was taught.
Yeah.
And I've got an uncle who is 67,
Mhm.
and he was here some years ago, about 10 years ago, and
Mhm.
he knew some British poem
Mhm.
word for word.
Word. Yep. That's
Yeah,
right.
word for
Word for
word. He
word. Yep.
still knew it. And
Yes.
my brother-in-law, who's like 20 years younger than him,
Hmm.
he knew the same poem. British poet, knew word for loan. They were taught and recited it. This was not taught in the British school that I went to. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Uh,
this is how
yeah. I must say.
entwined.
Yes, we
Yes,
were. There's no doubt. I'm almost out of time, Jackie. But what you brought to the show is another perspective. You've first of all highlighted two priorities. You will vote for Labour, for the Labour Party, for change. You want to see change in the NHS, and you've shared with us the experience with your mother, and we hear you. And of course, you've also cited the housing crisis exacerbated by Conservative government policies, is a crisis which the Labour government needs to put right. And I think that's a fair observation. And of course, Windrush clearly is important because those, particularly of our parents' generations, you and I were born British, it is therefore incumbent upon Britain to put right what Britain created difficulties
they
for
made the
us.
promise to the commissioners.
That's right.
They made the
They
promise
did.
to the commissioners that
Yep.
they was going to put thing right, and
Yep.
people are still going through the distress
Yep.
to
That's
relive their stories.
yeah.
Yeah, if you talk to Glenda Caesar,
Hmm.
Desmond Jadu,
Yes.
Clive, yeah,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
having to go through stress
Yes.
and trauma, which affects your health,
That does. It does.
yeah, to try and get little bit of the money that they're offering, and the money, the strike is not good, it's not fit for purpose.
It is not.
You have a house, you get told you're not British, so you had a mortgage. Your mortgage was, your house is nearly paid. People have lost their homes,
Hmm.
lost an asset,
Hmm.
and the system is saying, no, I'll put you back a
Mhm.
bit, but you can't be back into the position that you was. But I had my home. I
That's
had
right.
a home that I was paying a mortgage on. It would have
Mhm.
been paid now. How am I not being put back
Mhm.
to that? And the key is equity.
Can I just ask you
The
just to pause there
system's
just for a
not
moment?
dealing with that.
Just hold there just for a moment. What I'm going to do, and whilst I'm playing this, those who are listening to us via galaxyafui.net, we might switch over to the next presenter. But I'm going to play the Theresa May apology. Listen to this.
On Tuesday, I met with Caribbean leaders, where I gave an absolute commitment that the UK government will do whatever it takes, including where appropriate payment of compensation, to resolve the anxieties and problems which some of the Windrush generation have suffered. These people are British, they are part of us, they helped to build Britain, and we are all the stronger for their contributions.
Well, that's an emphatic statement, wasn't it? Huh?
Yeah. I got some friends who say, show me
Mhm.
that you love me. Don't tell me. Yeah. That's what, yeah. And my mum would say, and you know this saying, Martin, the mouth was made to talk.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the
Uh,
government
uh,
needs to, by action,
mhm,
demonstrate that that those that came and their descendants
mhm,
is of importance to them, and they
mhm,
want to
mhm,
heal. And this by action.
mhm.
Yeah, we've all been deceived. No,
Yep.
show me by your action that you love my ancestors that came and we shared the room, yeah,
Mhm.
and we done the paraffin heater and we couldn't
Yes,
get housing and
yes,
they clean and they came with their trade.
yes,
They were they had an English education in the Caribbean, Africa, and they couldn't get jobs with those qualifications.
yes.
Some
You're
of them
right.
had to retrain,
They
do
did.
conversions.
Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
didn't get they trained as teachers, doctors, and all that
Hmm.
in those countries, and they couldn't get the same job here. Why? Because of racism. But they were humble and they took anything because they said, "No, I'm helping the motherland. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Can
the
you imagine?
motherland,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they did it.
They
They
did.
did it,
Yes. Can I
and
ask you just
now
to pause for a moment there, Jackie? I believe I've got someone on the line. I realise this is the Galaxy line. Can I just take the caller with number ending 3743? Good morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Brother Martin. This is Jackie and Brother Anthony. Good morning to
Good
you,
morning.
sir.
Oh, good morning to you. Okay, can I ask you? I'm going to have you. I'm going to send you another link. The line you're on now, I'm going to put you on another line, but I'm going to take you off this one if that's okay. I'll send it to you by the WhatsApp. Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, thank you. So come back to it. I'll send it to you in a moment. Thank you. Uh, what I want to do, sorry, Jackie, I don't want to
That's
this
okay.
other line. Okay, what I wanted to just take up what you've just said. You're right that words are great, but actions speak louder than words. Okay,
Mm.
what this government has demonstrated that its words do not match its deeds. Okay, and without a doubt, we need change. We need change. The question is, and you heard what Anthony said about this particular point, whether or not we need a Windrush Act. I know that, so to listen to Yvette Cooper on this point, she's pretty clear that she wants to resolve this problem because it is a stain on British history. Um,
Mm.
do you believe that Yvette and Keir Starmer are committed to resolving this problem? Hmm.
Yes, yes.
Why? Why? Why?
Why with Yvette, I have to say, having listened to her, and remember, she served before. She's got a long track record.
Hmm. Hmm.
She stayed the course. I've never heard anything scandalous about Yvette. I have no question to doubt her integrity, and that is
Okay.
something that has been lacking in politics. The
Yeah.
Nolan principles is like
Yes.
it's there on paper, yeah,
Mhm,
and that's about it.
mhm.
So I have no reason, as she's part of working with Keir Starmer, that they would, because the character of the person has shown, and I do believe Keir wants to. I have to give Keir that chance, if you understand what I mean, because
I
Keir
do.
came into government, as an MP in 2015, whereas Yvette has a longer track record
Hmm.
of being. So she's got that corporate, one would say corporate history, corporate knowledge.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's where I am with regards to that. How quickly, see, we never got here overnight. And Anti's really good on that because he was one that was affected with the legislation and
Yeah.
all that, having, so he's got that. What Anthony and I understand, where many, they don't want this to happen again.
No, that's right.
And that's what everybody's afraid about, because it started because change of legislation.
Yep.
So they say for once and for all is a legislation that will ensure you draw a line
Hmm.
and you reset things.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
while that, and we know that legislation never happens quickly.
No.
So while that is being discussed and resolved from people like Anthony and the legal team that
Hmm.
he's brought the case to,
Hmm.
there's other works they can get on and do, like fixing the compensation scheme. How can
Absolutely.
people need proper legal representation? It's
Hmm.
advocates in
Hmm.
the community that are helping people fill out forms,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and capture their information, and also ensure that they don't re-traumatize them
That's
while
right.
they're telling the story, looking through the documents. I mean, it's disgusting that people have to go through all these things to get some compensation, some financial redress.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, it's like you got a scar
Hmm. Hmm.
and the scar heals.
Hmm.
You still got the mark. When
Yep.
you can't, you always got the mark on your ham, and
Yes.
every time you look at it, it reminds you of the trauma.
It indeed
Now,
does.
for many, it's not even healed.
Hmm. Yeah.
Every time they have to open up it and
Hmm.
tell, and then the system and how it's designed, put some little salt on it so
Yeah.
it
Make it
stings
worse.
you.
Yep.
That's how some of them feel when you listen to them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
It
then
is.
the family trauma, because you'll have two siblings.
Hmm.
One did do the nationalization, one didn't.
Hmm.
Yeah, their descendants, the one that did, their children can travel, they can experience everything. The one that
Yes.
didn't, their
Hmm.
children can't. They've
Hmm.
been had troubles with getting into university. We know one story in Luton. They
Yes.
stopped speaking to their parents.
Hmm.
All that is the trauma that has happened
Hmm.
in one family.
Mm.
One family, two sisters, one did do the nationalization, the other one didn't. And
Hmm.
then the fallout from that. And the mum that didn't do it told their children, but I was told I was British. Why am I paying? Why am I paying when I was told I'm British?
Yeah.
We were told we were British in the Caribbean.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
trauma,
It is trauma.
absolute trauma.
And
So I
you
hope I've
and
answered your question.
you have, and you've really brilliantly explained the resistance by some people not wanting to come forward because they don't trust the Home Office, don't trust the government, and in the manner in which it professes on one hand to want to help, but yet on the other make things worse for them. Okay.
There was a story, Martin, when we got before the pandemic, we got the Home Office to come down to Luton when they was doing the tour,
Mhm.
and they came down to the Carnival Arts Centre. The chief exec of Luton Borough Council wrote to the Home Office to ask them to come to Luton, because I
Right.
was sick and tired of they thinking that we're only in London, Birmingham, Manchester. They're not seeing the change that has happened over
Mhm.
80, 70 odd years, people moving beyond, yeah?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there was a son he sat at the front, and he said that his dad, he was in tears. He had to help his father go back to Jamaica, a place, even though he was born there, he had never visited
Oh
since he came
wow.
to this country, because of the trauma he had gone through. So this a generation that trusted British justice.
Hello?
That's
Okay.
what you've got to
Yes.
remember, yeah? That
Yes.
generation, whether they were Caribbean or African or
Mhm.
Asian, they trusted the British
British
judge
justice.
100%.
It is true. It is
Yeah.
true. Yep, it is true.
And in their lifetime,
Hmm.
they lost that trust because they inflicted pain on
Yeah,
them
that's
to
right.
tell
The
them,
trauma.
no, you're, yeah,
Yeah,
that it was the key. And the son, because he's the oldest,
that's right.
he
Yes.
said he had to get his father to go back to a land that he has no, because everybody had died out. The
Yeah.
people that he grew up, they had
Yes.
died, or they migrated, they went to Canada or America.
Yes.
So so his father is vulnerable.
Yes.
He had to help, and it was distressing to hear. It brought tears to my eyes. And you
And
can see the civil servants, they have got upset. I've
mhm.
seen civil service eyes well up
Yep.
with the stories that they've heard.
Can I
So
just say
when
to
is
you,
it going to
can I say that you're so right, and what you're expressing and highlighting is the trauma that the so-called hostile environment, so-called Windrush scandals, caused hundreds of thousands of people up and down the country, and you said it so very, very well. Can you just ask you, just hold on just a moment? I believe we have Teresa on the line. Wonder if you can hear us, Teresa.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me, Martin?
We can perfectly. Yeah, perfectly. We can't
Oh,
see you
good.
though.
Sorry I can't come on camera,
Okay.
but I'm hoping you can hear me.
We can hear you perfectly. How are you this wonderful morning?
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, how are
So
you?
so I have a question for all three of you, if that's okay. I think
Can I do
this
it the
is
other way around? Before you put your question, my question to all of my guests has been, which party will you give your vote, and why give your chosen party your vote?
okay. So you're going for the meat and potatoes first. Okay. So I am absolutely very traumatized by the Conservative Party and very fearful of what else they can do, what more damage could they do to a society.
Hmm.
I've tried many different versions of voting. This time I'm going to make one decision and I'm going to vote for Labour. And I'm going to trust that they do not disappoint and abuse my trust.
Hmm.
Conservative have done that. And
Hmm.
there is no going back. I've never voted for them, but I could have, if they had done something decent in all the time they've been in power.
Hmm.
But as they say, power corrupts and total power corrupts totally, and they're totally corrupted. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Thank you, and that's a wonderful. I think Jackie would agree. Her response was wonderfully clear, direct, and succinct. Very, very good.
happen?
Can I just add a supplementary to your response? Are there particular issues? We've just talked about Windrush, for example. Are there particular issues that you'd like to see the Labour government address? It could be housing. It could be employment. It could be
Yeah.
overseas trade. What issues are important to you?
Yeah, I have four ask. I
Oh,
have more,
okay.
but four main one. Housing, we have people sleeping on the street after
Mhm,
being
Mhm,
abused for
mhm,
years with
mhm,
paying more than 40% of their wages. Now they're turfed out of their homes because of the private sector taking over a
mhm,
need, which is housing. Like Sister Jackie said, the
mhm,
Maslow hierarchy, you need to have somewhere of shelter. It's a
mhm,
cold
mhm,
country. Secondly, the NHS, I can't count how many parents have died in the COVID time, couldn't see their parents
mhm.
because they did not prepare properly. And I hear billions have gone to people who don't have to pay it back.
That's right. Yes,
So
that's right.
NHS, housing,
Mhm,
education, the
mhm,
quality of education, the quality of preparing children for the
mhm,
future is totally abysmal. We have
mhm.
young people coming out who can't read and write, who
Yeah.
spend 12 hours a day at school,
Mhm.
12
Oh, we've lost her again.
Oh,
Oh, she's doing
no.
so well.
Oh,
Okay, she must have pressed the
oh,
button without realizing it. And she's
oh
doing so well.
no.
She's very clear, wasn't she? Very, very clear. But we'll
Yeah,
get it back in
yeah.
a moment.
And
Get it
she's
back in a
right
moment.
about the education. Yes.
Yeah, and of course the shadow cabinet. I'm trying to think of the name of the Secretary of State. Have said that one of the focus, of course, is to recruit the specialist teachers. So you don't have PE teachers teaching maths, for example, or one of those crucial STEM subjects. Okay, so that, of course, Bridget Phillipson will be who is the current Secretary of State, Shadow Secretary of State for Education. So herself and Keir Starmer have made a commitment. One of the biggest push will be to recruit specialist teachers. So if you're going to a maths class, you're taught by a maths teacher. If you're going to a chemistry class, you're taught by a chemistry specialist teacher or physics. Yeah, just so that young people are given a genuine opportunity to grow in those subjects. Because clearly, it'd be very difficult if you're a non-specialist and you're teaching one of those core subjects. And of course, the STEM subjects are so critical to Britain's future health and well-being. Science, technology, engineering, and maths are the cornerstone to Great Britain's future prosperity. And without people adequately trained, Britain will have great difficulty in surviving the future competitive landscape. Maybe bring Teresa.
But the arts are needed, Martin.
Mhm,
The well-being of a generation.
mhm.
Art, yes, STEAM, yeah, the arts are needed. A
Okay.
lot of the arts is exported, and
This is true.
we need to develop a child that is round and
Mhm.
balanced.
Okay.
Russell groups and all that, they don't look at just maths, English, and science. They look at a rounded child to get through their selection process for
Mhm.
universities, yeah, because it's about the well-being of the individual. When life gives you the ups and downs, how balanced you are. Holistic child is really important. Holistic child, teenager, adult is required for industry.
Okay. We got Teresa back. And Teresa, you have muted yourself, Teresa. Oh,
Hi.
you're back now. There
Where
you
did
go.
my rent end up when I got kicked off?
Oh,
Where did I end up?
you're on your
You're talking
third.
about education,
Yeah, education.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Oh, I was on education. So utility and the cronyism of people giving their friends contract and paid meters
Hmm.
and black maternity care. African and Caribbean women have got the highest number of fatalities around maternity care. And
Hmm.
you heard housing and NHS already, I think.
Yes. Yes, you did. Yes, we did. We did.
And Windrush, I said Windrush because at the end of the day, we have people who did not ask to be kicked out of the system, but was
Mhm.
kicked out, but now are asked to give paperwork to come back in the system. How
Can
pathetic.
are
You
pathetic
kick people
indeed.
out without paperwork and now you want them to do paperwork to come back in.
Mm.
You make a really good point, which is why Anthony Brown earlier on, who's focused on producing a Windrush Act, was quite well. It wasn't. He was warm to the Labour Party, but a bit cautious. The Labour Party is not committed to a Windrush Act, but it's sought to reform how the Home Office is operates and is managed. He doesn't believe it's enough. I'm not going to question him. It'd be useful if we could get an interview with Yvette Cooper or even Stare Karma at some point.
We need to stay calmer on this because at the end of the day, my guy has got loads of black people, African diaspora people who are going to vote for him and he needs to earn that vote and he needs to show up and
Mhm.
stop hiding.
I don't believe he's hiding. I don't believe he's hiding. But I've
He's
also
hiding from us. I haven't seen him on any of our media to talk to us personally.
that's an observation. I'm not going to comment. That's an observation. I know that central office will be monitoring shows such as this one. I'm convinced and confident that they will respond appropriately. You were going to ask a question of us. I now give you
Yes,
that.
and
Yeah.
I'm going to run after asking it. I'll listen
Of
on
course.
YouTube. My question is, I had to choose a passport
Uh-huh.
just at the time my mother died. So it was emotionally traumatic for me to have to give up my heritage passport to take on board a naturalization British passport. I had
Uh-huh.
dual nationality and now I only have one. And I had to pay for that when I had to pay for a funeral cost at the same time. And I was a teenager. So I don't understand why I am now only having one passport when I should have two. I have three generations that I've produced in this country, and now they don't have my heritage passport. and I had to pay for that privilege. So how is that going to be rectified? That's my question. And can I run, or do you need to ask me something?
Oh, no, well, not, first of all, I would point out I'm not in a position to respond to that question. I've made note of that question, and I'll seek out an answer for you. You might want
Thank you. I'll be listening on YouTube. It's just I've got
I
a
understand.
few
That's
things I have to
Martin,
run off to.
Martin, on getting the answer, it would be useful for you to get the high commissioners for the different
Yep.
places, because I think some do and some don't give dual nationality, and to explore how easy the system is, because I for one have been pursuing Jamaican citizenship for the last 2 years. July 27th will be 2 years and I'm still waiting.
Oh, wow. Okay,
But
that's
my
interesting.
children,
Right.
but two of my daughters have got it through descent. They got
Yes.
it through me
Yes,
and their
but
grandmother, but I and my sister is still waiting.
gosh.
So this is the thing. When I complain, because my sister goes up, oh, this is so rubbish. Da, 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 da. How is it they can't sort it out? I go to sister Windrush. Do you remember
Yeah.
the Windrush, Jen? Yeah.
So
Because
we need change.
we compare
Yeah.
excellence
Yeah.
to what is going on in
Yes.
the West,
I understand.
Britain. Yeah, we
Yes.
compare our ancestors, other countries our ancestors are from. Is here,
Yes.
but it's not necessary.
You're
Yeah, do you
right.
understand
You're
what I'm
right.
saying,
No, no, yeah,
brother?
we're,
Yeah.
we're on the same page, and we've got to always translate for the wider audience. So I know what you're saying, but
Have I translated? Did I not
I think
speak
you have. I
clearly?
think you have. Oh, I think you have. I think you
I
have.
didn't
But
speak.
I want to
I
make
didn't speak
sure.
patois. I did not speak any patois. Stay. No, 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 no.
Let's go a long way here. But anyway, all right. Jackie, this has been brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And you're very clear as to why you will vote for the Labour Party. There are, of course, it's not a perfect house, but that's fair enough. No family is perfect, that's for sure.
Mm.
But you're clear that you want change. I think we're all
They,
clear we
they
want
delivered
change.
on the NHS. Labour
Hmm.
kept his promise on the NHS in 1997. Everything came down.
Yes,
Everything did improve. Yeah,
yes,
it
yes.
did. They did that. So if you're talking about, you know what I was saying about, they'll just say the mouth was made. Just talk. Look on the action.
Mm-hmm.
Labour
Mm-hmm.
delivered on the NHS. People's treatment. That is it.
That's it. Thank you.
Housing, we
Yeah.
need, because we didn't last. We got to do housing now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you for your time this morning. And thank you for the time you spent. I know you've a little longer than I anticipated,
It
but thank
was,
you. It
but
is
it's
well
all
done.
good. It's all good. Yeah.
We'll be in
Take care,
touch.
everybody that's listening to me. Have a blessed day wherever you are.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jackie. Bye bye. Bye bye. Wow. Wasn't that brilliant? Wasn't that brilliant? And it was an example. Resonating. Um, Generally, people want change. They're fed up with the current administration. They understand the potential for change means a potential for change in outcomes. Yeah. And those changes in priorities will be changes to priorities which are more aligned to their priorities. Okay. So it's pretty clear from today's show that the NHS is a biggie. Yeah, NHS, the brainchild and creation of the Labour Party. It's pretty clear housing remains a biggie, and it's pretty clear that the Labour Party has a plan for housing, particularly genuinely affordable housing for rent. Yeah, to give the abilities for local authorities to build homes. Yeah, of course, changes to the planning regulations should, of course, ease the barriers to building homes at a pace that you and I would recognize. Okay, and I think clearly what's come out for this particular show is, of course, the Windrush scandal. It is a stain on Britain. And we've noted Anthony Brown's cautious comments, that whilst the Labour Party represents change in how the Home Office will be managed, but it will not be effective unless we have a Windrush Act, which enshrines in law and therefore the status of those who had British status under the 1948 Act, okay, were in Britain throughout up until 1972, when the first Race Relations Act was brought into force. The change is possible. It doesn't require giving particular groups of people an advantage. What it requires is for the Equalities Act and its underlying principles to extend throughout policy creation, policy formation. How Parliament operates should be within the context of that Equalities Act, the 2010 Equalities Act, which was a Labour initiative that was finally ratified in 2010. Change is possible. I will be voting Labour, just so you're clear, for all the reasons explained by the guests today. I've got not a problem with that. I'm going to thank my guest. But before I go, I also want to just give light to a number of social organisations that I believe you should give support to. And many of you will always recognise I give light to two organisations because of their profound impact on our community. When I say profound impact, what I really mean to say is that they affect families up and down, the youngsters in our families, because it's us supporting our youngsters' development. Okay, so what I want to do is give light. I'll put it up on the screen. If I can put it up on the screen, yep, there we go. Up on the screen, there you are. The National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, or NABS. Their website address is www.nabss.org.uk, or you can contact the Inspired Volunteer on 07958 348 and of course 558. If you've got a child or young person below 25 and requires some additional support in their schoolwork, or want to broaden their curriculum or social activities, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools is a good organisation to make contact with. Or if you run a after-school project or a small school or a character building facility for young people, whether you're connected to a church or a mosque or any other institution and it's aimed at young people, ensure your organisation is registered with the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools so that parents will know where you are and can make contact with yourself. I commend that organisation to you all as one that has proven the test of time. A community that works together grows together, and I cannot understate its importance to us all. Okay. And let me just take this off screen very quickly. There you are. And then secondly, and those of you or regular viewers and listeners to this show will of course be aware that I'm really very concerned with that great country called Nigeria. I'm concerned about its future. I believe, and I'm confident I am right, that it will play a pivotal role in providing an engine for economic growth amongst Africans and Caribbeans worldwide. It has great potential as a nation. It will and could be the first African lion economy, one that is full of innovation, technology advancement, has good public services, and is a place that families want to be and grow. I believe Nigeria has a great future, but we need to support Nigeria. Okay. With that in mind, when I commend to you one organisation that is committed to Nigerian growth, and that is NINAS. NINAS, of course, is an amalgamation of primarily Igbos and Yoruba people, and of course Hausa and other people as well, and others, of course, okay, all working together in common aim and common purpose to see to it that Nigeria will become an economic superpower, an African lion economy. Yeah? You've got the Asian tiger economies. This will be the founding of an African lion economy. Okay. I commend the NINAS organization, that an organization that seeks to achieve peace so you can achieve prosperity for all. Their website address is www.ninasvoice, I commend them to you, or you can phone them directly. It's +234 912 1551. I commend the NINAS organization to you as an organization that seeks to achieve peace so we can create prosperity for all. And what more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? Okay. And lastly, I just want to say this to you. These shows are intended to inform and inspire. Okay. Sometimes we have our difficulties, but they achieve their outcome. The final outcome is to inform and to inspire. And I say to you, if you've got ideas for subjects that I should address, please make contact, and I'll happily receive your communications, and I will look at the ideas you put forward. But if you want change, you must take deliberate action. Every one of you are change makers. So if you're in Britain and you have the opportunity to vote, I urge you to vote, okay? I've indicated my preference, okay, and I've indicated the reasons why, and my guests unanimously, in fact, have also indicated how they would vote and why. They'll vote for Labour for the reasons they've announced, yep, and that's pretty clear. They want change. I commend to you this show. I hope you have found the content to be useful, but if in doubt, ask questions. I say again, if in doubt, ask questions. If you're viewing us via YouTube, please, why not subscribe? It's for free, or please give us the thumbs up. Don't leave without, making a comment of the content and how you found the content this morning. And if it's all applause, we do this, of course. If it's all applause, I don't mind the applause. Yep. Why not? Give me the applause. That's fine. You see the fireworks coming out of my head. There you are. Yeah, I know. I love doing that. I know. But change only happens when you take those deliberate steps for change to happen. Okay? It doesn't happen because someone says so. It happens because you take those deliberate steps. So please subscribe if you're viewing us via YouTube, or indeed you're viewing us on Facebook. Subscribe, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on the YouTube. It doesn't cost you a penny. Let me just play this quick show. There you are. Please subscribe or press the bell icon. Why not do that? Yeah, why not do so? And lastly, I'll just say this to you. I enjoy doing these podcasts because I get to meet some wonderful people. That's true. Okay. But I'm interested and I want to talk to people with ideas for growth. Okay. I've got enough of those who just want to talk about the negatives and what's happening to us and the negatives. Yeah, enough of that. I'm interested in speaking to people who are interested and want to achieve growth, genuine growth. And if that's so, reach out to me. Okay, I want to talk to you. Let's see what we can do together for genuine growth for ourselves, our families, our communities, and together we will transform the world. So, until the next strong, I am the motivator. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. Take care. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Vote 4th of July 2024. Your vote will matter. Voting in 18th century Britain. The proportion of the population eligible to vote was very small, estimated to be about 3.5% of the adult male population. by the end of the 18th century. This meant that the vast majority of people, including the emerging middle class, working class, and women, had no political representation. In summary, the 18th century British electoral system was highly restrictive, undemocratic by modern standards, with voting right limited to a small, affluent segment of the population, predominantly defined by property ownership and wealth. The system was characterized by significant inequalities in representation and a susceptibility to corruption and patronage. Voting in 19th century Britain. By way of background, the working class consisted of unskilled labourers who worked in brutal and unsanitary conditions, a marker of Victoria England hierarchy. They did not have access to clean water and food, education for their children, or proper clothing. Early 19th century voting was restricted to wealthy male property owners. Post-1832, the electorate expanded to include more property owners and their tenants, though still restricted to property value. Post-1867, a further expansion included more urban working class men, though still with property and rent qualifications. Post-1884, the electorate became more uniform across counties and boroughs, encompassing a larger proportion of the adult male population. By late 19th century, despite expansion of significant portions of the population, including all women and many working class men, remained disenfranchised until the major reforms of the 20th century. In conclusion, the 19th century saw significant but gradual expansion of the franchise in Britain, moving from a system heavily favoured wealthy landowners to one that included a broader swathe of the male population. The century set the stage for more comprehensive reform to come in the 20th century. Voting in early 20th century Britain saw a significant change in the electoral franchise, expanding voting rights to include a broader proportion of the population and ultimately leading to universal suffrage. Here's an overview of the key developments. The Representation of the People's Act, 1918. All men aged 21 and over were granted the right to vote, regardless of property ownership. Men aged 19 and above who had served in the armed forces during World War I were also enfranchised. Women aged 13 and over were given the right to vote provided they met the minimum property qualifications or were married to men who did. The impact: the electorate expanded to about 21 million, with women making up approximately 8.5 million of that number. The Representation of the People's Equal Franchise Act, 1928. Equal voting rights. This act extended the franchise to all women aged 21 and over, giving women equal voting rights with men. The impact: this act increased the electorate to about 28 million, with women making up the majority of voters for the very first time. Voting in late 20th century Britain saw significant changes to the electoral franchise, expanding voting rights to include a broader proportion of the population and ultimately leading to universal suffrage. Here's an overview of the key developments. Post-World War II, the Representation of the People's Act, the abolishment of the plural voting. This act abolished plural voting, where individuals could vote in more than one constituency based on property ownership. University constituencies. Special university constituencies, which allowed university graduates to have an additional vote, were also abolished. The Representation of the People's Act, 1969. The lowering of the voting age. This act lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, reflecting changing societal attitudes toward adulthood and political responsibility. The impact. The electorate expanded to include younger voters, significantly increasing the political engagement amongst the youth. Late 20th century. The Representation of the People's Act, 1983. Refinements and updates. This act consolidated the previous electoral laws and introduced several refinements to the electoral process, including changes to voters' registration and the administration of elections. In conclusion, the 20th century witnessed the transition to universal suffrage in Britain, marked by the removal of property qualifications, the achievement of equal voting rights for women, and the inclusion of younger voters. These changes reflected broader societal transformation and a commitment to more inclusive, democratic participation. British voters' contemporary concerns include the cost of living, improvements to the NHS, crime on our streets, immigration, climate change. British voters' contemporary concerns also include housing, education, availability of good jobs, childcare cost, equality for all. The main political parties in England include the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, July 4th, your vote matters. Which party will you give your vote? Why give your chosen party your vote? The 4th of July, your vote matters. Share your decision with the Motivator on Saturday the 29th of June from 8:45 to 9:45 a.m. We want to hear from you. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment. Follow us on Facebook. Give us the thumbs up and share with your family and friends. We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too. You can listen to us on galaxyafui.net and also Mixcloud too.